Sameki de kari astol, dati tangi stone. Tede kumoto a foto, anga de lai boto, bai sanye kwa tapsi. Wade sula lai to, da yabi soms, efi yon kolok ye sungu alai lai gue. Mapina fasi, nanga pari kura boto. Dede ala sura, imupo ala lai na boto, nanga loop, kebe al boto. Te de pasade sula don hasito disi. Tade tak, que gado.
Today, there are still many groups of rainforest inhabitants, people who have learned to count on nature to survive. In doing so, these people have learned to live sustainably. In the ongoing effort to conserve and protect our planet, this organization acknowledges the important human element and interconnectedness between the communities and the natural environment, and consequently take a people-centric approach to conservation. Rudo is one of 2 Amazon Conservation Team project managers alongside Neeraj Hanuman, who have spent more than 2 years traversing up and down the 300 kilometers of populated territory of the Matawai people, which lies along the banks of the Saramacca River.
In 2015, we started to work with the Matawai Maroons of Suriname, and that was primarily a mapping-related project. So at that time, there was a road that was being built to this community in this territory. There was a stichting here, a foundation, that wanted to basically create a baseline study of what the landscape looks like now so that they can better prepare for future developments. So ACT was brought on as a consultant to basically create a map, to start collecting data and train community members to collect data as well in order to produce a map that sort of shows what does the landscape look like. While we were kind of mapping the landscape, we realized that there were a number of different stories that were attached to places on the landscape. And I was thinking, like, why aren't we doing something to preserve these stories as well? They're just as important and just as critical to their landscape and how they see their world.
The Matawai descended from Africans that were brought to South America as slaves during the period of European slave trade. They escaped their bondage and sought refuge in the forest over 3 centuries ago and have forged and maintained their unique culture since then. However, with new roads connecting them with the outside world, the pressures of modernity have prompted many Matawai to move to the capital city of Paramaribo for work and schooling.
There's not a lot of elders in the community at this time. We realized that it's only a matter of time before, unfortunately, they start passing away and that the stories become lost.
The men, having spent more time in the forest, recall stories of hunting, fishing, historical sites, and village sites where ancestors settled centuries ago. The women, having spent more time in the village, caring for the family, have intimate stories of village life, coming of age, and family tradition. These stories and interviews will preserve the Matawai identity and also bring awareness to young generations of Matawai who have forgotten their roots. It was from this initiative that ACT would not only produce the largest archive of Matawai heritage, but also another unique and invaluable product.
A project like this begins with essentially creating a map. You have to know where the places are and what their names are in order to have conversations about them. We'll travel throughout the landscape with an elder who will then tell us what the places are, so that with GPS and with smartphone technology, we can document those places. But in the process, he or she will also start telling stories of, oh yeah, this is this place where this and this happened. So that already gives you a preliminary idea of what are some of the most important historical places. In the case of the Matawai, they have a number of stories of things that took place there, which of their ancestors lived in which villages. And so you start by asking about those places, and then from there you learn about different places. And so it's almost like a snowball effect where from one place you can come up with a list of a number of different places that have historical significance.
This snowball effect produced the most extensive and detailed map of Matawai territory, presented to them in their own written language, making the map one of the only documents in written Matawai. The community has embraced the effort and has even lent a helping hand with the mapping and locating of interview candidates, partnering up with ACT through their own independently created organization, Stichting Dorpsontwikkeling Matawai, an organization that aims to bring development to their community.
Miuroko ina project naf luku taki a stichting langa a project sa awani bereik wan doel. Hier is nog eentje zetten voor koeien. Uroko samen nanga ACT, u de tapu een boompad. Dat wan taki, dadelijk de ACT otegu taki oké heren, tot zover teja da unus refi kan charengo doro, want u leer furu en ACT potunu tapu een hoogte pe u wan doro en u wan moro.
Joseph Dennerts, aka Papa Joe, aka Oom Sippy or Uncle Sippy, is a Matawai man who has dedicated himself to the project by accompanying the team and sharing his broad spatial knowledge, and has contributed immensely.
Oom Sippy, there's a few characters in the... Let me try to think about this actually.
Omendegwa aloktu. Mami waka furu na rekio. Mina fondo sei madesuma fuganandaliba da temianga dati suma dena boto. Ke odolo na sura data me aksinta ko fade kadidi adisi presi. Da karenji mi. Asomi ko ler sabe a elli bala de presine.
He's somebody that realizes that he knows a lot, and he's quite proud about it, you know. In many cases, he will start to tell you a story, and he'll tell you more and more and more, and then he'll shake your hand afterwards and be like, haha, Oom Sippy. He'll say his own name, you know. He's such a character, but the reality is that he's one of the few people in the community that has this wide array of knowledge, you know, about the entire landscape. There's some people that know a little bit about maybe a small part of the river, but then there's some that know the entire river, kilometers and kilometers of places and history. And when you talk to him, you can just see him navigating the river in his mind, you know. It's this really natural geography that he has that's just awesome.
Together with Uncle Seppi and other Matawai elders, the team has collected over 700 location names. And when asked about how he personally feels about his knowledge coming to life and literally being translated into a map, he had this to say.
I feeling good. I feeling high. Yeah, no. Me de breiti, pusami no be sabi. Da de sabi man, mi be sribi. Da de sabi man ko wiki mi, tak ei. Kono. Kogo yo lati. Ise damio mi musu fa kadeng. Mi wani si fade o ma yep mi pemi o mandoro.
This will actually be the very first ancestral lands map that has ever been produced for the entire Matawai landscape. What we are currently developing is an interactive map which is offline compatible, so it can be run anywhere in the jungle. You don't have to have an internet connection. And the users will be able to explore the map. They will be able to use a mouse to interact with it, zoom in and out, pan, and all these kinds of things. And then they will be able to click on the various points of the map that have a historical significance and listen to or watch the stories that are being told about those places. The Matawai community will have the full rights to this data. This is not an ACT product. This is something that we will hand over to the community, and they get to decide to use it however they wish.
A map of their territory will not only preserve century-old names of places, but will also be used as an educational tool in schools, teaching Matawai history and geography. The Matawai feel empowered and appreciate this effort, and there is a desire to scale up this project. And ACT plans to conduct similar storytelling projects with other cultures in the Amazon. There is still much to be done, and the Amazon Conservation Team stands committed.
it's one of the greatest things I've done in my life to be able to produce this map, to work on this project, to help this community gain access to their own culture and their own history. That's something that will live for hopefully hundreds of years. So for me, I consider this to be one of the most important things that I've done in my life. It's been truly an honor.
The Matawai have a renewed sense of pride for their heritage and look forward to participate in other activities that will help them help themselves and their environment.